Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital. It is April 25th. My name is Curtis Scouten, Head Market Analyst. Let's jump right into natural gas. So a little disappointing that we could not take profits on our natural gas before. I was anticipating a small technical bounce as I previously covered in the last natural gas analysis videos. And one of the reasons we couldn't, we could have closed our natural gas short, but I'm a little bit stickler on price. You can see here we had our two major support levels where I expected natural gas to get its bounce. It clearly got its bounce on the first key technical level, which just so if we flip to the daily chart, just so happens to coincide with this pivot top as well as this pivot top over here, going back. So we were in the camp that it was going to get a technical bounce. I wanted to cover my short before it got that technical bounce because then I was going to look to re-short it again. Sometimes it doesn't always work out the way that you planned it. The reason I didn't cover is because it started to bounce before the market even opened. Natural gas was trending up. It was up about 2 or 3% by the time the markets opened, so I wasn't going to give up 6% on my KOLD trade because I am still in the camp that there's more downside ahead for natural gas. So since natural gas popped, it obviously put pressure on our KOLD position. It slightly took KOLD. Basically, what was natural gas? It popped up 5.8%, so call it 6%, so it took off 12% off of the KOLD. I still think natural gas, now that it's bounced off of this key support level, I'm going to readjust where I'm looking to now close my support. Since it's had a bounce, and I don't think the bounce is going to be, it's going to be a very short-lived bounce in my opinion. But now, since it has had its bounce off of its first technical support level, I'll be looking lower to close my trade. And I'm just monitoring this beautiful channel. So you have this pivot, your red bar high there. You have your pivot low. You have another pivot low, and you have another pivot low. And you have a pivot high here where you kissed it, another pivot high. And then look at today's price action. And this is the 4-hour chart. But it's still a good length of time. It gives you some great insights. And this is the channel that you're trading downwards in. And look at the resistance point that you just hit today. You started breaking above the channel that was keeping you in check for the last few days until the seller stepped back in and crushed the price back into this key technical parallel channel. That's the power of the price action. I don't know how this channel analysis does it, but it's so successful in terms of when you can analyze a pattern and find these parallels, it's so powerful. It's very, very powerful. And look at how perfect we closed. Right on the cusp of still inside of this channel. So not only do you not have a confirmation candle set up for tomorrow on the intraday basis, but you've now closed back inside that channel. And I was actually considering adding more to my KOLD at the highs here. Didn't end up pulling the trigger nonetheless, but let's flip to the daily chart on natural gas. Since you have had a big bounce, the one thing I was looking for, and I'm glad it didn't happen, was I did not want to see a close above this closing price here. So you can see that during the last session of the day, the last half of the day, we were pushing up. It looked like we were going to get that close above, and the price got pushed down. So that's very good to see. That still leads me to think that there's tremendous more downside for natural gas. Now my next level that I'm going to be looking to potentially sell my natural gas short, my KOLD, is right around here. So you have this trend line connecting the pivot high in February, and then this is kind of your reversal zone where you've hit resistance and you closed on this line basically a couple days in a row, and this was the line where you completely started breaking out. So this is your new breakout zone. This is where I'm going to be looking to take profits. So roughly, I think from the pop up to today, it's still basically another 17% to the downside, which would mean KOLD should pop around 34-35%. Let's just look at UNG, since UNG is the or KOLD is the inverse of UNG. So analyzing UNG here, you can clearly tell we've had a massive surge to the upside. Now on a closing basis, you did close above this, but the post-market action took you lower to close below this red closing price. Now, the price action on the actual natural gas chart matches up with that trend line of support. You have a key technical gap here, which is where I will be looking to exit my KOLD. We could see a hard flush in 1 to 3 days all the way down to this level. Natural gas moves quickly. It moves quickly to the upside, and it moves even faster to the downside. And once it fills this technical gap, it's likely that the 50-day moving average here will act as support. Potentially you could get another bounce since natural gas has been a strong commodity play. But eventually I do think you fill these technical gaps to the downside. I won't be staying in the trade that long. I'll be looking to exit around this $20 level once we fill this technical gap. Okay? Where it's going to line up on KOLD, well, if this is roughly 17% away, so it would make a 34% gain. It would take you roughly to this 1280 level, this pivot high here, around 1280, 1290, give or take a few. So that's the level on natural gas that I'm watching. If we jump onto the WTI, oil had a tremendous down day. It did rally back after the lows, but notice how you tested this key support trend line, which you broke here, but then you got saved, and you broke it again here, which you got saved again. But now you're trading in this wedge pattern here, and you don't have much more time before you hit the apex of the wedge pattern, and you can clearly see that you closed below this resistance level today, which was acting as support, and that's a bearish factor. The fact that you've closed below that, now the question is, are we going to get a confirmation candle? Because all the previous times where you closed below, so over here, you got a rip up, which negated the confirmation. Over here, you never had the back-to-back days of selling. So here you closed below, which set up confirmation day, but then you had a green candle, which negated it, and then you had another red candle, which opened up confirmation day, and then you had a green candle, which completely negated it. Now the question is, you've closed below that line again, and the question is tomorrow going to be confirmation day where we confirm with more significant downside to finally break these pivot lows that we've been hovering at for the last several weeks. I do think oil has more downside. We are still shorting oil via the SCO. We are in the money, I think around 8 or 9 or 10%. We were a little bit more at the lows of the day on oil here, but nonetheless, I do think oil has more downside. You're getting into some tricky areas here. If oil starts breaking down, then you're really going to be looking to, once we clear this level, the next major level on oil that I see where you have resistance is going to be this $85 level. So in reality, from current price of oil, that's still going to be a 13% drop, which would mean SCO goes up by roughly 25-26%, which would put us even deeper in the money. I do think oil going to $85 is a tremendous opportunity to potentially do a swing trade for oil, but yeah, that would be the level to close out our short trade on SCO. That's it for today. We will talk and discuss natural gas. I will be looking at those key levels, so stay alert. Natural gas moves tremendously fast. It literally, can swing in any direction, 5 to 10% within 1 to 2 hours. So it's critical if you're holding a large short position in natural gas, especially the KOLD, which has the theta decay, since it is an inverse ETF, you want to make sure that you can execute and get out of the position at the key technical levels quickly. Because once all those people start covering their shorts, like myself and others, then you will naturally start to have a bounce in natural gas. Just keep that in mind. Nothing goes straight down, nothing goes straight up, and bounces will happen along the way. I'm just a little disappointed that natural gas bounced right before we were able to get out. I was looking for a couple more percent. I guess, like I said, nothing always works out the way we plan it, but we're looking at the next key level, and it might be a blessing in disguise to squeeze more out of this KOLD trade than what we were originally going to get, because I have a pretty large position in KOLD, and if I was looking to re-short it higher, I wouldn't have taken on as big of a position as I currently have. But nonetheless, with potentially another 17% more downside before we sell our shorts, that would significantly net us a great deal of profit. So stay tuned for more. There's constant action in the stock market. This week will be wild. We should be getting some more natural gas inventories. I think it's a weekly update that the IEA provides in terms of whether there's a build or a drawdown on natural gas.